When you care about current affairs, it's on the OShow.
Welcome to the OShow, Canada's current affairs show with strong opinions. It is a Friday and the start of our Summer Friday OShow series. And what better way to kick it off than with one of our favorites? We've got Douglas Connors from the True North Eager Beaver podcast. And I have to say, before we get started, happy Pride, my friend.
Oh, happy Pride to you. Thank you so
Cheers.
much.
Cheers. And to everyone who celebrates, which should be all of us. As everyone watching and listening knows, holy hell.
Right.
There's so much drama going on in the world, in politics, in the US, in Canada, in Alberta, in Ontario. Next week is going to be a massive week in Canada. We are hosting the G7. Mark Carney just put out a video saying that he's making it the strongest economy in the G7, quite the strut before having the world come to Canada. I'm here for all of it. And we're going to have the scandal panel on next Friday.
Yes.
The boys are back to go through all that's going on with the G7. And also, Pierre Poilievre's numbers absolutely tanking. A 46-point difference between Mark Carney, the Prime Minister, and the squatter of Stornoway. Like, how do you even screw up that badly? What does that mean? And the Alberta stuff. And how the Indigenous peoples of Ontario are ramping up against the Ford government. It is also the 81st anniversary of D-Day, when many brave Canadians stormed Juno Beach. They were part of the massive Allied attack on Hitler's Nazi party and saved the free world. So to everyone who served, thank you for your service. To everyone who's currently serving, thank you for your service. And, you know, with everything going on, I couldn't help but think how serious the sacrifice was made 81 years ago, and how we are back in this time of insane precarity for no reason, no good reason other than greed and avarice, right? And so I think let's start with the ultimate drama show, which was the greed and avarice on display from two of the richest, most powerful, cruelest men in history. And you don't have blood in your veins if you didn't see them start to rip each other apart yesterday and think, you know, this might not go well because of a whole host of implications. Damn it. I'm enjoying watching these two assholes rip each other apart. So what was your reaction when you started to see the meltdown in live time?
Well, first of all, like, you know, that eye emoji? What? Number one. And then it was like, well, here's the thing, right? It's Elon had been sniping from the sidelines for about 2 days already, right? About the bill. So, and we just saw a couple of days ago with Taco, right? Oh God, Taco, they all call me Taco. Here, an extra 25% tariffs on steel. And it's like, what the hell? It's like, just trot out my favorite punching bag, Canada. Boom, boom, boom. There we go. And I'm like sitting there and I'm thinking, like, you're going to have to de-taco yourself out of this.
I know,
right?
I know. Taco means Trump always chickens out.
Exactly. So, but he was being portrayed as weak, so he had to be strong. So he struck back at Canada, because if you hit Canada, well, then everybody else, right? It's like, oh, if he's going to hit Canada, gee, maybe we ought to stay in line. Well, this is like the exact same damn thing. Like, this bill's going to send us in debt. This bill's going to send us in debt. This bill's going to send us in debt. Oh my God, I look weak. Boom.
Right. Yeah. And you know what? It's interesting because Trump went deadly silent for 3 days, the first 3 days since his administration from hell started. And he hadn't talked to the media, which is unlike him. So you have to know it was the brooding over what to do about the Elon situation. And then all it took was a couple of reporters asking him a question while he was meeting with the head of Germany in the Oval Office to talk about Ukraine, which is, of course,
big win.
Yeah, Ukraine had an incredible sneak attack. It feels like a year ago, just like a few days ago. Took out 41 of the special bombers that can carry nukes of the Russian military, and then took out the bridge that Russia built to Crimea after they annexed it in that war years ago. So they had a great time. Now they're getting, of course, hammered by Russia. Had a terrible night overnight. And Trump, of course, is saying, you know, let the kids fight it out for a while before you intervene. So, but the point in all of this is that we had the German chancellor sitting there trying to talk about Ukraine, and Trump and his Doge brother from another mother, I'm stealing that one from another podcast, his Doge brother from another mother and him are in this huge spat. So, I mean, like, Elon has lost $34 billion of personal wealth in the last 24 hours. Tesla, as Trump calls it, has lost $170 billion worth of market value. Stocks are up a little bit more today. But, you had Elon threatening to cancel one of his spaceship programs that brings supplies to the International Space Center station. Yep. You had Trump threatening to cancel his contracts. You had Elon say that Trump is, in fact, in the Epstein files, and that's why they're not released, to get all the MAGA conspiracists going nuts. Mm-hmm. You had Trump saying, that Elon's gone crazy. Today, Trump said Elon's got a problem. He feels bad for him, but then also said that he's getting rid of the Tesla on his property that he bought from Elon. So as much as they're trying to look like this is just yesterday's news, Douglas, and the two, as our AOC said, the girls are fighting. They're trying to look like they're back to being, serious people, but yet Trump's getting his car off his property. So, where are you with this entire freaking catastrophic, idiotic mess?
Well, you know me. I live for the awkward moment. So I feel so naughty feeling this much schadenfreude. But then again, they're just horrible people. And it's hilarious. This we all knew was going to happen, right? Because the number one rule of Trump, and I say it all the time, is there's only room for one star in Trump's sky. Rationally, logically, right? The money would be put on Elon because there's the tech bros, and then there's JD Vance, and he's just waiting in the wings. And Putin likes to do all this stuff through this online stuff. So, you can see the natural linkages. But my God, this Trump guy, he just keeps, it's like the Energizer Bunny commercial, boom, 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 was a nightmare.
I know. So
he just keeps going and going and going. And it's like, how does he keep on sustaining? Like,
when 1 million people in the US died from COVID, Trump got super special Regeneron or whatever the hell and did a victory lap, right? We see him over and over beat everything. And I have to tell you, Russia, this is a report that I saw, but this stuff is flying so fast. I'm someone who likes to see something mentioned 5 times before I buy it. Apparently there was an offer to Elon to take refuge in Russia if he needs to, because Steve Bannon, who's Trump's, evil whisperer, came out yesterday and said that Trump should deport Elon because he's an illegal alien, as well as take Elon's companies and nationalize them. So, so Russia's like, well, you can come here.
Right. Senor Tres Camisas also doesn't like competition. So, I'm
so sick of men with huge egos ruining our fucking world. I gotta tell you.
But women are too emotional to lead.
Yeah, right. We can't look away because A, it's fantastically entertaining, but secondly, because it's fantastically consequential. Yeah. There are astronauts in space who have to watch this to see if they can get a fucking ride home. I'm sorry, it's so crazy.
And we're learning so many things, right? The United States is gotten rid of that whole program from NASA. Well, because somebody else can do it better and cheaper, and we could run it. This is why you need services, right? They're not supposed to be profitable, because when you get in a snit like this, one person says, well, I don't need to take this shit from some hippie freaks like you. Screw you guys, I'm going home, and takes his rockets. Well, then all of a sudden you're in a defense pickle, aren't you?
Was that a Cartman from South Park kind of vibe you're pulling there?
Yeah,
I like that.
Exactly.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay,
pretty much taken right, lifted at verbatim. But but you're left with a national security hole then, right? How do you get your satellites up there now?
Yeah, no,
you have no program to launch this.
And Elon shuts off Starlink, right, in Ukraine again, or wherever the hell. So we're laughing because we're a little bitchy. And last night you said to me, "I feel so naughty enjoying this." I'm like, "Have at." Why shouldn't we? This was a moment for everybody who has been under oppression from these monsters. And people were like, which side to take? To be like Elon now? And I'm like, no, 300,000 children died because he cut off US aid for no good reason. So no.
You still don't like Elon. This is not redemption.
Yeah, I don't like either one of them. I think they're both horrible megalomaniacs who have caused harm this planet may never recover from. And we should call them out for that. Also, it's fun to see how far they're going to go, because I don't think Trump can cool off. He tried to be all professional this morning and all like, oh, poor little Elon with his problem. Give him 5 minutes.
Trump ruminates. You just look how long he stewed with Obama. He's still not done with Obama. He's going after Harvard.
Yeah.
Because Obama graduated from there.
I
So
know.
I mean, like,
So gross.
you know, but he never lets anything go, right? So yeah, he's the thing with Trump when you're asking about this, like I would bet on Elon logically,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
this, but you know, reading some stuff that Epstein said about Trump, right? Because there's that whole equation, there's a whole bunch of compromise on that side of it, right?
Yeah.
It's like he is so ruthless and just uncaring that
Yes.
you can't put anything past him. He will do it. He will not only will he pour the gas, he will light the match.
Yeah, and then
So-
he'll like sit and watch it and celebrate in lifetime while the conflagration goes. I mean, so on a serious note, Trump's so-called big beautiful bill that Elon started this whole fight over because Trump says Elon didn't get his EVs, whatever's in there, and blah blah blah, not enough support. It is a multi-trillion-dollar tax break for billionaires.
Yep.
And it is going to take at least 11 million people by estimates off of Medicaid,
Yes.
which means incredible poverty, incredible death potential. It is the worst bill that has probably ever come out of any version of the US ever. And there's opposition to it, and Elon is fighting it for a whole host of his own reasons. I mean, I think the ultimate goal maybe is the 25th Amendment on Trump someday so that they can slide their boy in. But the problem is that Trump, to your point, has this freakish, like never ending, doesn't seem to, he gets crazier somehow, but not older somehow. It is watching it. And even Elon said, as everyone out there is deciding, effectively, I'm paraphrasing, between me and Trump, I'm going to be around for 40 years. Right. So he tried to play the age card on Trump.
Right.
But I'm with you. I mean, so why is this important to the OShow? Because not only is it fascinating, Canada has never been more attached to the United States while consciously uncoupling from the United States. Like, we are stuck in this shit because every time he has a temper tantrum, it affects us. Whatever happens to Tesla will somehow affect us. Everything affects us. And also, I mean, talk about the big giant golden dome garbage. What happens if Starlink is out of, I mean, like, the whole thing is insane. So we have to follow it. Find our enjoyment where we can, but we're also hosting the G7 in a couple of days.
Right.
So, I mean, we are bringing all this stuff around the world to Canada. Carney, in a master move, invited Zelensky, which I absolutely love. And Carney is strutting in there. Trump is going to be there. I mean, we're going to have the OShow Scandal panel next week to discuss it all. But just before we move on from the Trump-Elon nonsense, what is your thoughts about the G7, how it's shaping up in Alberta, of all places?
Well, the G7 is shaping up pretty good in certain respects because 2 weeks ago they had the meeting of the finance ministers first, and that went very, very well. There's a lot of people expecting that there might be some announcements with regard to tariffs, but however, the only reason that people are saying that is because it's an event that's high media and high profile like this, but there's absolutely nothing about that event or anything that requires it, right? So if it doesn't happen, it should not be considered a letdown or a failure. It would just be they have it ready in time for a moment, but that doesn't require anything specifically at that time. But there's some buzz about that as well. The Prime Minister has also reached out to the President of Mexico, Sheinbaum, who has been so far non-committal about coming. I don't know if she has confirmed yet or not. Like, but has been playing it very cool. I read today, just before going on the show, that he did extend an invitation to Modi.
I think this is why we elected Carney, ultimately, because he knows all these people. He knows how to manage crisis. I think he's inviting everyone to the table at the G7 as a strut. I mean, clearly his comms have been strutting this thing up. I think he wants to show the world that he is the leader of the world. And you know what he said? He would do that. He said Canada would become a superpower. I was talking to my 14-year-old daughter about this, and she's like, well, Mom, we have tremendous energy resources, tremendous freshwater resources. We're the second largest country landmass on the planet. She said,
the most educated.
We're the most educated. We're a democracy.
Not the most, but up there.
But we're one of the highest rated democracies. We're a stable investment environment. Like, she just went through it all, and she's like, why shouldn't we have our century as the leader? And I like listening to a child say that because of how, in many ways, Mark Carney has laid out the benefits, the features and benefits, like you do in a sales job. Carney has laid out the features and benefits for Canada to be the top economy in the G7 and a global energy superpower. And if that doesn't make your arm hairs tingle, Canada, that this whole fucking mess could turn into an opportunity for prosperity for our children and our children's children. I mean, hell yeah, a little toast to that.
Yeah, well, he mentioned it in the campaign, right? Leapfrogging over the competition.
Carney is setting it up as a visual optics for the world to see that there is a leader of a stable democracy with untapped potential as an economy of the next century, and it's time to do business with Canada. I mean, that's what I'm seeing the signaling be.
Yep, I agree. And financially, we're in a really good position for it. I mean, I know the Conservatives like to talk us down, but if you're looking at what's going on in the United States, that bill, the way that it is structured, right, those tax breaks for overtime and tips expire at the end of Trump's term, and that most of that $4 trillion that he wants to give as a tax cut to the super rich or the obscenely wealthy is back-ended and kicks in after he leaves. And when that happens, their debt to GDP ratio or deficit, sorry, to GDP ratio jumps about 3%, and they've already got knocked down one rank on Moody's, right, on the credit rating.
Well,
that will
Elon
knock them
said
down
that
a few more, and the Treasury bills go up,
Oh,
which
yeah.
means all of a sudden people are going to start wondering whether or not they want the US dollar as the reserve currency.
Absolutely.
Well, if they don't, the next two down the list, if someone's reserve currency, is either going to be the euro or the Canadian dollar.
Right.
Could you imagine as the Canadian dollar as the global reserve currency?
Well, why the hell not? To the point that my daughter made, like, what, there's no reason if Carney, who's like the world's best financial consultant, is working for us and creates this structure where people can invest and we can do $1 trillion trade deals with the EU and we can do defense contracts and we can make our own aluminum freaking cans so we don't have to worry about those tariffs at the same. I mean, if Carney can figure this out and bring together all 13 economies in this country into one by Canada Day, I mean, why not? And so I think it's that aspirational, but also, doable vision that Carney has. He lays it out very much like a good leader should. When
Absolutely.
you're in leadership, you want to share a vision. You want to share it many times in many ways so that all your audiences can engage and understand it, but you want to keep it cohesive and clear. That is very difficult to do. And to
if it
add
sounds
on to it steps, to add on steps that are going to get you to that vision keeps people engaged, and putting up wins early is critical.
Absolutely. And if all of this sounds familiar for those of you who are, around my age or whatnot, it's the exact same thing Paul Martin did when we had to bring our economy back in shape.
Well,
we all had to pull together. He made the case over and over again. He laid it out. He explained it. He brought us along. And even though there was austerity, we knew it was coming. We had accepted that we had to do this. And then he promised he would, when it was fixed, that at the end, they would do 1/3 on tax cuts, 1/3 on progress, and they followed through. This time around, we're leaping from a higher platform, right? We're not digging out of that hole. So now the possibilities are endless. So those of us, again, who are around my age, who've been through this one before and have seen it happen under the stewardship of liberals, not conservatives, then are seeing this happen again.
Okay, so let's talk conservatives. Let's talk conservatives, because while Carney is out there on the world stage demonstrating his competence and his sheer joy in the job. I mean, the guy is like smiling. He freaking loves it. In that in question period, he's like, fact, 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 fact. I'm watching it going, Jesus, I knew he could do media. I did not know that he was a showman at that level in QP, which brings me to the thought, if Poilievre's only strength is shit talking on social and being a bulldog in Parliament during question period, what value does he have now? And the polls on Poilievre have dropped 13 points since he decided to squat and Stornoway on our dime. And Carney now has a 46-point lead on Poilievre in terms of who you want to be a leader popularity stuff. That's insane. For the Conservative Party of Canada to think that this guy deserves to be your leader, I mean, go for it, because that means Carney will be in for 15 years.
According to Leger, in Ontario alone, there's already a 17-point gap between the Liberals and the Conservatives in the polls. He's plummeted 13 points in personal popularity in about a month and 2 days, and the party has dropped a little bit as well.
Well, because all they've done is put out a conspiracy theory about the election, a freaking fundraising email that makes us all go like, could you be more MAGA? You tell us not to call you Maple MAGA. You say, no, MAGA's about the US. Hell no. They're acting exactly like MAGA. They're taking MAGA's policies, they're taking MAGA's tricks, MAGA's rhetoric. And you know what? Canada has given a giant MAGA.
Well, the learning and growing that he promised on that one day he walked through the field with his wife did not happen. Of course, he's not capable of it because we've seen him in Parliament for 20 years and he hasn't evolved one day from the University Debating Club. That's not going to happen. There's going to be
that walk was so pathetic. That video, it was so pathetic. It's
there's
like
going to
don't
be
try
no
to.
learning. Yeah, there's going to be no learning. There's going to be no growing. There's going to be no changing. It's just going to be everything they did, but in all caps this time with more exclamation marks. Right? So.
But with no microphone. Like
but that's the thing. That's the thing. Because he's out of QP and because he's sort of away, all of a sudden, Canadians have an opportunity to actually hear someone thoughtful, who respects their intelligence, who lays things out methodically. Remember we had this episode, I said, what if all along Canada was just looking for some person who was competent, able, not wild, able just to do the job, and that was it. It wasn't love for Pierre. This is it. This is what people have been waiting for. So by him being away, there's actually room for him to make his case without some yippee chihuahua interrupting every fifth word. And people, turns out, you know what, like competence, like people who explain things.
Yeah, and Trudeau had good values. Right. And during the pandemic, those Canadian values, that idea that we have a social safety net, that we're here for all of you, it was very important and very appreciated. And that I think
it's what we needed then.
Yeah. And that will be his legacy. Carney seems to share those values, to have a compassionate heart, as we saw with the whole thing with Gaza, which, by the way, is, of course, getting worse every day and is totally horrible. Talk about an abomination, what they're doing there. But Carney has shown the values that Trudeau espoused, but with a competency that a drama teacher was never going to have, and as much as I always liked Trudeau, when his time was running out and he was doing more damage than he was helping the country, I wanted him to go. And, you don't fall in love with politicians. They are doing a job you're paying them to do. When they are no longer the best person for the job, you got to have clear eyes and an open mind and look at who are the other options. And Carney was this financial superstar who was in the background. And when Trudeau brought him to that cabinet retreat 2 years ago, I knew that he was laying the groundwork for Carney to be his successor. And so it was like, okay, let's go. Just get out of the way now, right? And so the fact that Carney is here at this time, when Trump has this new administration and the G7 is being hosted in Canada, and Merkel is no longer the chancellor in Germany, and there's a lot of new leaders on the stage. Starmer's new. I mean, there's so many new leaders. It is a tremendous opportunity for Carney to assert himself. And the numbers do not lie. I mean, 64% of Canadian women have a negative impression of Poilievre. I think it's like 48 or something with men. 64%. You're never going to be the prime minister if 64% of the women in this country find you creepy. Okay? I've been talking about the creep factor, the ick factor for months.
Yeah, you can't make your debut in one of the first stories being that you had MGTOW hashtag on your accounts for 5 years and then expect that you're going to...
Explain to people what that is, Douglas. Explain to them what that disgusting thing is.
MGTOW is an acronym for men going their own way, and it's a whole part of that manosphere.
He can't change this peevishness, this picayune kind of way he sees the world. It's just, it's off-putting. It doesn't make you hope. It doesn't make you feel safe. It doesn't make you feel better about anything. No. A narrative of brokenness.
The problem with this by-election, though, is in this by-election, he is going to be asked every single damn day what he thinks about Alberta Separation.
Right.
And unless he is able to do a full-throated song in support of Danielle Smith's take, or plan for it, I don't know what's going to happen to him.
Well, what is Danielle Smith's plan? Do you know? Because it's different every day. One day, she's not for separation, but she's going to facilitate separation opportunities. But she doesn't want separation. She wants to work with Canada. But she's going to try to bully the rest of the premiers and the prime minister to make Alberta special. She, she's for it. She's against it. She's miserable all the time. Talk about bad body language.
Yep.
So where does Danielle Smith even stand on this shit anymore?
Never listen to what Danielle Smith says.
Okay.
Only go by the pattern of the things she does.
Right.
Danielle Smith is media trained and a master speaker, and her secret talent is being able to make everything sound just so reasonable, no matter how far-fetched it is, and pretending that she's thinking on the fly. Oh, what about if we... And then say what she's been thinking about right to the camera for the last 6 months in planning. And what if we did... And then put the plan. That's what she does. She wraps it in some honey, right? That makes you think it's, this is yum, yum good. But it's bunk.
There is no, I don't think, appetite from the Albertans I hear from all the time on the OShow. Love you, Alberta fans. Thank you. I hear clearly, constantly, we don't like the UPC. Danielle Smith is in this corrupt care scandal. We don't want to separate. We're Canada first, Alberta second. Like, can we please get this over with? So, I mean, does Danielle Smith run out of road here with all of her threats to the other premiers?
Yeah, at some point she does, because David Eby is not having it, number one. Right? Number two, about 64% of Albertans do not want separation, but 64% of UCP voters do. So she's in a pretzel. So you just got to let time do its thing. She's going to be drawn and quartered politically on her own. Right? The seeds are already laid out because she will not be able to deliver. Number two, right? And all that stuff is going to catch up with her. She's good, but you can only talk so fast.
And
at some point, life comes at you fast, and there are a certain number of problems coming from all over. She's not going to be able to field them all. At some point, it is going to catch up to her. It just can't. And on that pipeline thing, she really wants it, even if she gets the okay. If there's a separation thing, no foreign money is going to want to go in there and invest. So she's going to have to swallow herself somehow. She's going to have to decide whether or not she wants the pipeline or she wants separation. And if she decides she wants the pipeline, then that means she's going to have to talk against it, and she's going to lose all of them. And that's the end of her career in politics.
To your point about Alberta, so you got Poilievre not really in the riding he's supposed to be fighting for, which could bite him, just like it bit him in Carleton when he didn't bother to show up, and Fanjoy took advantage by working his ass off. So Poilievre might not get that thing. I might have on, actually, Bonnie, if she looks like the one who's got the best chance against him. I might have her on the OShow like we did with Fanjoy. So, but I also think that to the point with Danielle Smith and with these other guys, they are now not just speaking into this vacuum that Trudeau had created the last 2 years. Now there's Carney. And Carney represents the best of us and the best plans for us, and Canadians are loving it. And if there were people who were hesitant about voting for him, they're not now. They're glad they voted. From the people I'm hearing from, they were soft on their, they were conservatives, but didn't like Poilievre, and they thought, why not give this banker guy a chance? It looks like he could fix an economic war. Now they're really happy about it. So you have no buyer's remorse on the Carney decision. In fact, you have people saying, yeah, more please. And you've got Poilievre and Danielle, I'm not even going to waste time on Bernier. You got Poilievre and Danielle Smith looking bad by contrast, not looking just like they're in opposition to what Carney's doing. They actually look like poor leaders, like dour Canadians who are missing this patriotic moment, like they want to regress us, not progress us, when we are seeing a vision for our future that is damn exciting, So, I mean, so I think the sands have shifted under their feet so much. I was going to make an oil sands joke, but I won't. The sands have shifted under their feet so much that they don't even know what they're standing on anymore. And you got Carney riding into their province, standing on a rock with the world leaders behind him going, hello. So,
And during that meeting between the First Ministers and the Prime Minister, I do not know how Mark Carney did it. And he had a special meeting with Danielle the day before, just for her, because she's that high maintenance, right? But at the end of that meeting, based on all the statements that were there, she's encouraged about what's going on with pipelines because we're talking about it. However, Mark Carney somehow made it such that it becomes her responsibility to find the proponent in a situation where she's creating financial instability and unpredictability in her own province, which diminishes the chances of it actually ever happening.
So, you said off the top of this section on Danielle Smith that I don't believe a word she says. And I think that with Carney so far, we've not seen a reason not to believe the words coming out of his mouth. So when you have that disproportionality in terms of leadership, confidence, and, Carney's got the people with him, Danielle Smith is it feels to me losing friends by the day across this country. And David Moscroft was on the pod, and if you guys haven't listened to the episode I did with David, he's brilliant, and he really talked about the fact that the kind of separation that Danielle Smith is doing is not one based on ethnicity or language.
Right.
You know, it doesn't have the underpinnings of the distinct society that Quebec had. Now, I grew up in Quebec, so obviously I have a bias, I'm sure, but I've been to Alberta a bunch of times, love the place, but it's not coming from the same roots. And so it does.
Mocked it.
What's that?
Blanchet mocked it.
Yeah.
At this conference.
Yeah. Because it doesn't have the same gravitas, right? Especially when you look at the numbers in Alberta and when you look at the whole picture. I know they're still mad about the 70s and Trudeau won and all the rest of it. And there's some legitimate grievances, I'm sure. But it's not at the level that Canadians sit back and say, what is their case for separation, right? What can we do to try to make them understand we see their needs? I'm not sensing that feeling, especially when she ran down to Mar-a-Lago and did that photo with O'Leary. When I saw the three of them in that photo, I said it's ignominious. It's going to go down in history. And I don't think any Canadian, after everything that has happened to us, can you believe it, in only the last 6 months, I don't think any one of us has any freaking grace that we want to extend to a leader who would do that. Some call her a traitor. I won't go that far, but I will say that there's no grace in the space for Danielle Smith. So as Carney rolls into Alberta and, does his mighty global flex, playing at a level she can't even understand how to navigate, I think it's going to diminish her.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, just as a side note, Prime Minister Carney, if you happen to be watching, I know that Danielle Smith invited you to watch an Edmonton Oilers hockey game. Go if you must, but buy your own ticket.
That's right. And you know what? I'll be interested to see if they announce that Carney's in the house and announce she's in the house, what that's going to sound like. I mean, I get the sense with Carney, he's gracious enough that he's put up with egos like this, and he'll make it like win for everybody. And that's very Canadian, and we appreciate that.
Also central banker, right? Because the leaders of the countries, he can't outshine them, right? He has to be the person in support. So I mean, if he's like, premiers, you want to do your little song and dance, go ahead. I'll just stay back here. And it's like,
but we have seen
I can see that.
Strut. We have seen him strut, my friend, more than I thought possible. Like, he does some stuff where you're just like, damn, did you just say or do that, right? Which I love. Okay, so let's just, speaking of strutting, but in the wrong way, we've got Doug Ford in Ontario, who I have to say it, just to wrap this whole conversation back around. Ford is taco. Maybe we call him Faco. I don't know. But Ford always chickens out. When this controversial bill went to the floor and there had been an attempt to filibuster it, I had Premier Kathleen Wynne on in the middle of the mess to talk about it. And they managed to delay it as long as they could. The final bill gets passed, of course, because Ford has a majority. You hear the protesters erupt in Queen's Park. And where is he? Chickening out.
Not there.
Chickening out, and now went on 100,000 million day vacation.
It's the politician that when something bad is coming, takes another one and puts it in front of him.
Oh, yeah. Well, his excuse that he was on the phone with a Republican senator or whatever doing business, like, whatever.
No.
Whatever.
He did not want video of him getting his precious soft little hands dirty.
Not only are his policies incredibly harmful for 81,000 Ontarians in homelessness and for, millions on ODSB who can't afford rent and food, and all of the people who need our environment protected for the health of their children and the future of farming and everything else in this province that's sustainable and good and right. Ford is a threat to all of those things.
Absolutely.
All he cares about is the rich. All he cares about is his donors. All he cares about is his profits. And the rest of Ontario has been suffering terribly under this Trump-loving premier. He is a taco. He is too chicken to sit for the actual vote on Bill 5. He's running away again from the legislature, so he can't be held accountable. Shame on Doug Ford. Shame on the progressive conservatives who voted for this Bill 5. And to every person who is fighting it, including the Indigenous and First Nations, must say to all of them, we are behind you, whatever that fight looks like, because I think that they are protecting our province for real. And the premier is saying that he's protecting Ontario, but it is actually the First Nations, the Indigenous people of Ontario, who are protecting our province from something that could even end up being a grab of the green belt. So, do you want to speak to that?
This guy, after voting themselves a raise to just go away, the legislature has sat for 25 days in 2025. yesterday on the news, there's a newborn infant who died, was born with measles due to a vertical transmission. It's not like there isn't work to do. This measles outbreak started last October, and they are not going to come back to next October.
Disgusting.
It's not like there is not work to do. And my previous statement, if you think it might be a little harsh, Laura, you're in comms, right? If you just ran on an election with the bid to protect Ontario, and then you're passing this big Protect Ontario on blah, 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 blah type act, and it's so important that you got to force it through debate, you have to insult Indigenous people like this and get it through now. Because would you not be there for the moment it passed to be able to say, I protected Ontario? He knows. He knows it's toxic, and he did not want video because he knows that a couple of years from now, that moment is going to bite him on the arse really hard. But here's the potential saving grace. The same problem that Danielle Smith has in Alberta, he's just created for himself too. Because if he wants that money for that stuff for the Ring of Fire, good luck getting the investment if you have the Indigenous people doing Idle No More too, still not idle.
But the way that
he's tying it up in courts.
Okay, so first of all, we pay for the court. But we pay for the court stuff, right? Which
yes, we do.
Off, right? So he litigates everything. He does all these crazy things and then goes to litigation and we pay for it. So I hate that. These bad Bill 5 should be stopped in the front instead of that. But that's what's going to happen. That's what he counts on. So he's going to exploit, just like he cut down the trees at Ontario Place, just like he shut down the Science Centre, didn't care about people's weddings that weekend or anything else. He's going to do whatever the hell he wants to do. Doug Ford is going to rule this province by fiat because he slipped under the wire again because of the Trump stuff and that rushed election. He doesn't have a mandate to destroy our environment. He doesn't have a mandate to impoverish the people of this province further. He doesn't have a mandate to take power away from municipalities. He is running roughshod over this province, over Indigenous people who had a right to be consulted, and they were not constitutionally. He did not follow through. Big Bad Bill 5 is terrible. And it's so bad that he chickened out from even being there the moment that the vote came through. That is not the sign of a leader. That is not the sign of a protector. That is a sign of a coward. And he is going to hopefully hear from the people of Ontario who will say, you might have a majority, but that doesn't mean that one single day of this has to be easy for you until you do right by the people of Ontario, by our municipalities, by our people on ODSP, by our autism families, and by Indigenous people in this province. It's disgusting.
It is. And irony of ironies. In that interview, that scrum he did, when Trump raised those tariffs, where he's asking Mark Carney, says, you need to slap back with those 25% extra tariffs right now. I can't believe you can't just let a guy come in there and just bulldoze all over us. And like, have you smelt yourself, sir? Have you smelt your own damn armpits? Because exactly what you are complaining that Trump did on the exact same day you just did to all of Ontario. You don't like it when it's done to you, and you are doing it right now. You are what you loathe, sir.
Right. I don't think he loathes it at all. I think that Ford is a complete Trump fan. Everything about his Big Bad Bill 5 is similar to that stupid Big Beautiful Bill that Trump calls it in the U.S. that started this whole Elon fight in the first thing. Ford is not only a fan of Donald Trump, Premier Doug Ford is copying Trump's playbook. He is slamming through legislation that is harmful, possibly even illegal, and he is doing it in the night. He is forcing everybody to fight while it goes into litigation that we pay for, and he is walking around talking like he's protecting us when in fact he is making the most vulnerable more vulnerable. He is putting economic cruelty on the people of Ontario under the auspices that he is going to somehow build our economy. Really, on the backs of who and for the profit of who? Because if the future is based on the past, all we've seen him do is enrich his donor class. So, shame on this man who walks around pretending to be tough on Trump when he's actually copying Trump, not just in tactics, but in content and in intention. And it makes me sick.
Yep. So rephrase, you are what you claim to loathe, sir. And proof again of that to support your point. He's still talking Fortress Amcan. It's like, you either want us to walk away or not. but you need to can it with the Fortress Am cannon. God, if you are going to keep on it, at least freaking give us top billing. You dumbass.
But
I mean, that's
you
how
know what?
slavishly. That's how slavishly he's there. Like it's Fortress Am can.
Because maybe
Look, you can
Trump will see me. Maybe Trump will see me on Fox and know that I love America. He's so gross. I can't
And he
stand
once
it.
again promised that his Starlink's out, but I'll believe that when it lasts.
You know what?
It's the third time now.
I'm so glad, Douglas, that you and I had the opportunity to talk about all of this stuff. It's kind of gross that we have to talk about
Yes.
Elon, Trump, Danielle Smith, Poilievre, and Ford in one show. However, these are the days that we are in, folks. Before we recorded, I went for a run up the mountain like I do whenever I can. And I ran into a 100-year-old man named Walter who was taking a little dance break between climbing the 7 billion steps on the mountain. And, you know, we should all be a little bit more like Walter as we go into the weekend. Can you imagine the stuff he's seen in his lifetime? And so we right now have this cast of characters that are grotesque and obnoxious and obsequious and into all the wrong stuff. But also we can mock them. We can not sit by and act as though they are more powerful or inevitable or indomitable, because they're not. What we have to do is stay engaged. I know it's barbecue season and I'm a gardener and I love the summer and let's all have a good time. But no, we are not going to let our foot off of the gas when it comes to watching this MAGA movement, this authoritarianism in the US, this creep into Canada, the bullshit with the Alberta Separation, the cruelty of the Ford administration in Ontario. We are going to be on it on the OShow. We are pro-democracy. We're going to be on it every Friday all summer and maybe more, depending on God knows what comes down the pike. Douglas Connors, thank you so much for being here. True North Eager Beaver podcast.
Yes.
I'm jealous of their subscribers. I would like the OShow to catch up with them. Please subscribe to them if you don't already, and let's get to 5,000 subs on the OShow.
She's delightful. She's fiery. She's fierce. Look at her. She's fabulous. Come on, man.
Aw,
you gotta subscribe. Lady
I'll
Laura.
pay you later. It's an email.
Lady Laura, may I request permission for an F-bomb?
By all means.
The Trump-Elon thing. Let's just say, as a member of the Order of the Fabulous, it is really delightful for me to see we Trumplican men celebrating Pride Month by royally fucking each other over. Happy Pride.
You're awesome. But all the rest of you, have a wonderful week. If you haven't seen our top-rated show ever with Charlie Angus talking about the threat of Trump and autocracy in Canada, check it out, because it is a great conversation, hasn't aged a day. Moskrop's conversation, very intelligent, very interesting. He's writing a book on all this. You got to check that out. And of course, we'll see you during the G7 with the Scandal Panel next week. Take care. Take care, Douglas.
Thank you.
When you care about current affairs, it's on the OShow. And when you want to get clear what's going on here, it's on the OShow. If you like to stay in the know, tune yourself into the OShow. It's the OShow. Laura Babcock's the OShow. And with a lot of great guests, she puts them to the test on the OShow. Yeah, there's no doubt they'll be calling them out on the OShow. You gotta stand for something or fall for it all. Canada, you hear the call of the OShow. It's a podcast, the OShow. Laura Babcock's the OShow. Stay informed with the OShow, OShow.
Your merch band.